first really met Omar up in College Station. I was lost right after, before an Yankee game. He was kind enough to guide me. He knew more about College Station than I did, and ended up having to watch the game together.
I, Omar Maldonado,
do solemnly
swear
that I will faithfully execute the duties of the office of
Hidalgo County Court at Law Number 8
of the state of Texas and will to the best of my ability preserve, protect
and defend
the Constitution
and the laws
of the
United States
and of this state.
So help me God.
So help me God.
I would first and foremost like to thank God for allowing us to come here together as one united community. I would like to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this cold, dreary day and celebrating a new beginning. Your support and belief that we can make a difference is the reason why we are here today. I would like to thank my dad, who administered the oath of office for me, and in doing so, represented all of our family members who were called up to heaven's gates and not able to be present with us here today. Their spirit is here, and we remember their sacrifices that they made so that I may be able to stand up here today. I would like to thank my entire family, especially my wife, Christy, and my two children, Addison and Andrew. I would like to thank my campaign team, my friends and supporters, and every single person who had a hand in making this dream of mine a reality. In preparing for this day, I began to think about what I would say that would capture the moment. I began to think about how I arrived here, the steps that it took, the sacrifices that I placed on not just myself, but on my entire family. I began to reminisce about my childhood, and I began to think about all my teachers and coaches who played a role in helping me become the person that I am today. My thoughts quickly turned to some time spent on the football field while at Edinburgh High School, and my thoughts about an offensive line coach by the name of Jimmy Franz, who, unbeknownst to me, inspired me through his words to do what I otherwise might have thought impossible. On the football field, Coach Franz had a simple saying, one that was etched into my mind, later to only realize that it had been etched into my very being. Want to, he used to say. Son, you gotta want to. You gotta wanna be somebody. You gotta wanna win. That simple saying, want to, had such a profound impact on who I would become. A few years later, I would find myself away from home at the university, hundreds of miles away, missing home like you could only imagine. But there on the campus of Texas A&M stood a young man from Edinburgh, Texas, a young man who had want to, a young man who wanted to be somebody, a young man who wanted to win. It's what drove me to spend many Saturdays in the library instead of taking in a football game. I can remember the countless Saturdays getting to the library at the time the library opened. At that hour, only a few students stood by the door waiting to get in. I would pick out a student at random who was standing there by the door. They didn't know it, but I would follow them up to whatever floor they chose to study on. I would sit close by, close enough to let them see, close enough to allow me to see them, just not close enough to make it noticeable. And I made it a point that I wouldn't get up until they got up. I wouldn't go to the bathroom unless they did too. If they left early, I would win. I had that want to win mentality, something that had been instilled in me by a football coach on the football field. Soon thereafter, I found myself applying to law school. And after graduation, I remember my mom, dad, and grandmother packing up a U-Haul trailer and getting things ready for my life as a law student. It was August of 1998 when that U-Haul headed out to Lubbock, Texas. Along the way, in the city of Junction, Texas, we stopped to grab a bite to eat. Now, knowing my dad, it was probably at a Western Sizzler or a Sirloin Stockade type of restaurant. And sitting there surrounded by my family, my grandmother Nana, who is here with us today in the front row, said something to me that I know came straight from her heart. She said, "Mijo, if you don't make it up there, it's okay. You can come home. No one will think any less of you." But you see, while those words were said with kindness and love, they were said to a young Aggie who had want to, who wanted to be somebody, and who wanted to win. As all of us lawyers can attest, law school tested us to the core. It brought out the best, and yes, sometimes the worst in us. I can remember my third year in law school, studying for the bar exam, up at 7, eat breakfast, study all morning, have lunch, study all afternoon, have dinner, go to bar review for the bar exam, then go work out, only to go home and study some more study some more before going to bed and waking up the next morning to do it all over again. For close to 3 months I did that, until 1 week before that exam. On that day, I hit the wall. I gave up. I could not do it anymore. The fear of failure set in. So I packed up a few belongings, got into my car, and I began to drive home. About 100 miles out of Lubbock, I pulled into a parking lot that overlooked the lake. I had been crying for about 100 miles to that point. I remember getting out of my car, sitting on the hood of my car, thinking about what to do, thinking about my grandmother's words, thinking about Coach Franz's words. "Son, you gotta have some want to." I remember calling Christy and telling her my plans. I would come home, study for the bar some more, then take the bar when I was ready. To this day, I don't know how, but she convinced me to turn that car around and head back to Lubbock. At about that time I was headed back to Lubbock, Christy called my parents. She told them what was going on. She told them that I wanted to quit, and she told them that I wanted to come home. My parents, without thinking, without hesitating, they closed their office. They canceled everything that was pending, and they drove immediately 10 hours to be by my side. I remember them calling me, asking me where I was, and I told them that I was at the law school. A few minutes later, I would see them drive up. Imagine that. They sacrificed everything so that I could have the opportunity to stand up here today and accept the oath of office as your judge for this great county. I've never publicly shared the story of how these people helped shape my life and how they renewed my soul. However, I share these stories with you today because I recognize that I stand here not solely because of my own actions or my own words, but because of the love and support that I receive from them and others along the way. I share these stories with you today because I hope to play a role as your judge for County Court at Law, number 8, in shaping the lives of others who come before my court through my own words and through my own actions. Thank you all so very much for being here and sharing in this very special moment for myself and my family.